Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. So this session was conceived of as, a little more informal, where we can talk, you can ask questions. Doesn't have to be strictly Advaita related questions, but questions about spiritual life in general. I can tell stories if I like. Yes. Yes. One thing we can do is, people who want to ask questions, want to pass the microphone? Will you do that? All right.
Yeah.
I think it's best if people who want to ask questions can come up to one side. Yeah. Please come to one side and queue up here. Yes. The person who got the microphone, you can start.
Okay.
Yeah. And the others, that's it. Not too many. Let's say 4 or 5. Come. Yes, come. And just hang around there. Yes, please ask the question.
Thank you, Swamiji. The question is about limits of reasoning.
Yes.
And I found your afternoon session was quite a good lead-in into my this particular thing. So there's a part A and a part B for this, if that's okay. I've been studying the Gospel for the past few months.
Yes.
And it's been a very enriching study. Sri Ramakrishna states explicitly multiple times in the Gospel about giving up reasoning. In fact, when M stays overnight, I think it was not the first or the second visit, but one of those overnight stays, Sri Ramakrishna promise him to give up reasoning. Literally asked him, I need you to promise me to give up reasoning. Marana, on the other hand, is reasoning. And that is an essential part of what we've been talking about, we've been learning. The way I have been internally rationalizing these two seemingly contradictions is that great personage, that Avatara, his predilection to Mother Kali and the Bhakti path was the most natural, although he trod on every single path. So can you please help resolve this? This was part A.
Hold on to part B. Let me read part A. So part A, reasoning and do not reason. There are two answers to this. One is, whenever he says this, he did say it to M, who is the compiler of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. When he says this, he is talking to advanced sadhakas, those who are on the verge of God realization. And for them, they don't need this anymore. Either due to their own sadhana or, in fact, actually due to the presence and the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. What Sri Ramakrishna calls Vastulabh, the attainment or the realization of reality. It's already within their grasp. So they need to stay with it instead of reading too much, reasoning too much. The reality is already there for them. Even for us, Mandanam is a stage. After it's done, Niridhyasana. Niridhyasana, after it's done, it's done. You don't have to go on inquiring here and there. The Upanishads themselves say, the Vedas themselves say, Yatra Veda Aveda Bhavanti, where the Vedas are no Vedas. The whole of Vedanta itself is given up. Not necessary anymore. Upanishad says, Nanudhyayed Bahun Shastran. Do not study too many scriptures. Anya Vacho Vimunchata. Give up all other talk. That means too much exploration, too much reasoning, too much, it might again take you, having found it, having come close to the proximity, one must stop the search. If one again starts searching, try out this place, that place, again one goes away from the reality. So he's talking to people like M who are on the verge of realization, on the verge of realizing the presence of God. Another way of answering this is, he is talking to people on the path of bhakti, on the path of devotion. And there, a certain amount of reasoning at first may be necessary to see through the hollowness of the world and fix your mind on God, fix your heart on God. Then you stop. Then the path is love, devotion, one-pointed devotion, and dwelling on God, no longer reasoning anymore. So either both of these answers may be correct at the same time. That M definitely was a very advanced person. He became enlightened in that time with Sri Ramakrishna itself. And definitely he was a devotee who initially was given to a lot of Vedantic reasoning and exploration. Yes. So this is the answer. That does not mean we have to give it up. But reasoning is only part of the path. First part of it is the teaching itself, Shravana. Listen. And then try to see if you get it. Where you feel I don't get it, that's where reasoning is necessary. What is it that I don't get? Can I precisely formulate my doubt? Then what kind of answers are available here? Reason it out for yourself. That much is the role of reasoning. Shastra anugrihita tarka. The reasoning blessed by the Shastra, blessed by Vedanta. Part B.
So, I attended your Ashrama retreat, and on the final day you said something which you actually repeated in the afternoon session, which is, one cannot argue their way to enlightenment. So argument and reasoning, how do you differentiate the two?
The same thing, argument and reasoning. Notice the role given to argument and reasoning, same thing in Vedanta. What is the role? It is that second problem, it removes the second problem, the impossibility problem. 3 problems in Sanskrit: pramanagata samshaya, the doubt regarding what is the teaching, removed by listening. Now you know what is the teaching. Second problem, asambhavana, impossibility. I don't get it. How am I pure consciousness? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. How am I Shiva? I'm just this guy. So, reasoning carefully, to holding on to what has been taught. That's the role of reasoning. Then you have found it and you've got clarity. Third problem will be, it's called viparita bhavana. Viparita bhavana means contrary tendencies. I have understood one thing, that I am Brahman, but I still behave contrarily. I still behave like the same old guy. So my life is going in one direction, my understanding in another direction. How do I bring my life up to the ideal? Swami Vivekananda says, Vedanta is practical in the sense of the ideal. It is to pull up our lives, our practical lives, to the ideal, not to pull down the ideal to our life. So that third step, the third problem is this contrary tendencies. I still continue to behave and think and feel as I earlier used to. How to transform that in the light of this new knowledge? That is answered by nididhyasana. So 3 problems, 3 processes: Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. The reasoning is the middle one. That much role is given to the reasoning. It must be preceded by learning first, Shravana, and it must be succeeded by meditation. That much role for reasoning in Vedanta.
And your point was, that by itself will not take us to enlightenment.
No, and I've seen such a person. He's passed away now, I can mention. One of the most interesting persons, a brilliant philosopher. So I met him a few times. He lived the last part of his life in one of the homes for the elderly operated by our monastic order. So that's where I saw him for the last time. Now, he had gone to Swami Premeshanandaji, the disciple of the Holy Mother, this gentleman, this philosopher, with the question, does God exist? When I met him decades later, so has he taken mantra diksha, is he doing sadhana? Because he's very interested in spiritual life. He said he's still waiting to make up his mind. Once he has got proof that God exists, then he will take mantra diksha, then he will start his sadhana. In the meantime, 50 years have passed. He's an interesting person. He does not give up the search, but he wants argument, reason. Conclusive argument to show without fail God exists and God can be realized, then I will start my sadhana. In that period, he could have realized God. I'm at least now that's an extreme case of reasoning only, nothing else except reasoning. Most ordinary people cannot sustain that level of reasoning. He could. Just by the way, because it's storytelling session. Once, I don't know how many have heard of the name of K.C. Bhattacharya. He's a philosopher, but very unknown and sadly neglected in India. Krishna Chandra Bhattacharya. I had never heard of him. So in our library as a young monk, when I was in the monastery, in the library, I came across this book, Studies in Philosophy. 2 volumes are there. And one article in one of our publications, Advaita Vedanta Spirituality, something like that, the spirituality of Advaita Vedanta, K.C. Bhattacharya. In that series of books, the Spiritual Heritage of India, published by the Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, Gold Park. So when I read that, I was amazed. I thought, this is an incredible person. I mean, the thinking. So why is he not well known? Anyway, nobody could tell me because nobody knew about him. So philosophers know about him, but most ordinary people didn't know about him. So when I met this philosopher, this gentleman, I got the chance to ask him. I said, sir, this K.C. Bhattacharya, I read a little bit and I felt he's amazing. Why is he not well known? And he replied, I still remember, with this dramatic way of talking, said, Maharaj, just as there are musicians of musicians, painters of painters, there are philosophers of philosophers. K.C. Bhattacharya is a philosopher for philosophers. There are musicians who are so great, only highly trained musicians can understand the greatness. Ordinary people cannot. There may be a painter who is doing such work, only other great painters can understand the greatness of this person. Ordinary people cannot appreciate. So, this K.C. Bhattacharya, he told me that he is a philosopher of philosophers. And the only thing that was published, that 2 volumes, Studies in Philosophy, that also because his son. So what he would do is, K.C. Bhattacharya, he would sit and think, and then he would write down something, a scrap of paper, and toss it away. Most of those scraps were swept away by his wife. Now his sons recovered some of the scraps of paper, and those are the 2 volumes, Studies in Philosophy. If you look at the book, it's numbered, just sentence, scraps. Sentence 1, 2, 3, like that. Each of them is, the more you know Vedanta, the more you think, oh my God, this is so deep. Maybe one of the greatest living philosophers in Indian philosophy, Janardhan Ganeri, he is now immersed in trying to understand and explain K.C. Bhattacharya. So what he does is basically, when he presents a paper, he reads out a sentence and reflects upon that, then reads out the next sentence and reflects upon it. I remember he was doing that in a seminar. We were all listening, trying to understand. I couldn't understand it anyway. And when you're speaking, there is the sound control at the side, like a green room, that sound control system. They were there for the microphone. They were not there to listen to philosophy. So they started talking among each other. And he stopped. He couldn't proceed. He said, please, be quiet. Such is the level, the depth and subtlety of his thought. So this gentleman, this philosopher, he told me about that. All his life he just kept on thinking, does God exist? So just by argument and logic, one cannot come to any conclusion. Even for a highly trained philosopher, not K.C. Bhattacharya, I'm talking about this gentleman who told me that he is a philosopher's philosopher. Devdas Babu, that was his name. Just by argument, one cannot. Reasoning. Swami Vivekananda said the intellect is necessary, but it's a street sweeper. It sweeps away mistakes, errors, illogical concepts, gives you clarity, but it cannot take you to the goal finally. Remember, that does not mean the ultimate reality. Vedanta is illogical. It's beyond logic, that's all. Logic will take you almost all the way. But after that, there is a jump. And that jump is not a jump of faith. Many people make a mistake. That after realizing I'm not body and mind, that I understand, the next part of it, that I am pure consciousness, I'm Atman, Vedanta tells us we have to accept it. No, not like that. They are mistaken. It's not a jump of faith. It's a jump in reality. It's a jump into reality. It becomes utterly obvious. Not something you have to believe in. So argument by itself. In contrast, let me mention another philosopher. So she is with us and still now, so I will not take her name, but she told me herself. So this is one example of one person who kept on arguing and could not believe. I don't know, at the end of his life, did he come to believe that God exists and start spiritual practice or not? I don't know. He has passed away. So this is one example. A person who I have to understand, then only I will start. And understand means at the highest level, rigor of reason, of a highly trained philosophical mind. That level answer I should get, then only I will start my practice. Well, then you are going to wait for a long time. In contrast, this lady, who is also a philosopher, she told me that, have you heard of Anandamayi Ma? Yeah. So some of you may have even seen. I have not seen it. It was before my time. This lady told me, this philosopher, she said, she's quite elderly now, she said that when I was a young girl, my parents were devotees of Anandamayi Ma, so I used to meet Anandamayi Ma often because my mother would take me to her. So I was a teenage girl and I would go, and often Anandamayi Ma would just chat with me, I would hang around with her. This great mystic. It's a great blessing to be with such a person, and especially at such a young age. Now she told me one incident. She said, at that time I had already started reading philosophy books. She was a teenager, so clearly a very talented person. And as happens, if you start reading philosophy books, you'll become skeptical about all this God business. So one day she went to Anandamayi Ma. She said, Anandamayi Ma, in India they used to have, in Bengal you say madur, mat, on the floor. In a hot climate, it's much more comfortable to sleep on the floor, on the mat. So Anandamayi Ma was sleeping in the afternoon, was lying down, not asleep. And this girl, she says, I came into the room and I said to her, to the mother, mother, this God you talk about, it could be, just consider the possibility that the God doesn't exist. Could be. Isn't it possible that God doesn't exist? You just believe in it. And then she said, Anandamayi Ma sat up on the mat and said, come here, child, come here. So I went next to her, she made me sit down. And she said, I am talking to you now. Is this a fact? I said, yes. Then she said, it happened 70 years ago. I still remember, like blazing in my memory, she told me herself, this lady. She looked at me and she said, my child, believe me when I say, the existence of God exists, is a greater fact than this. Is more real. You think it's real that we are sitting and talking? God exists is more real than that. And now this lady told me, I knew at that moment until today, I know she told the truth. I know, but I can't prove it logically. All my life I've been struggling. That's why I became a philosopher. But I can't prove it logically. I can't give arguments I can give arguments, but I can't logically demonstrate but I know she said, it's true what she said. That is very touching to hear. All right.
Swamiji, my name is Savli and I have a new initiate problem. So just like in sadhana, you're supposed to kind of focus and concentrate single-pointedly on your ishta. Does the same hold true for bhakti? And if so, how can I best, consolidate, say, my love for Krishna bhajans or reading the Ramayana or Navratri Garba? How do I consolidate all of that to best support my sadhana and my new Ishta and one point.
Make the Ishta central. Remember, that Ishta which you have is the same as God worshipped in all other forms, in Hinduism and in all religions. Now, for me, for the practice, for the purpose of my sadhana, God is in this form. Krishna, Shiva, Ramakrishna, whichever form, which my Guru has indicated. So that is God for me. Not that I exclude others. As I had the Navaratri Puja, as I observed Janmashtami, I will observe. I know this Krishna whose birth I am observing in Janmashtami is the same as my Ishtadevata. So I can sit there in Navaratri and repeat my Ishta mantra. It's the same. So my focus should be on Ishtadevata. Not in the sense of this one alone is God, now I know everything else is wrong. Whatever I did till now is wrong. Not at all wrong. It's perfectly all right. But center your sadhana, as you said, consolidate it around Ishtadevata. Reduce often what happens in Hindu households, your shrine room becomes a museum. So many forms and deities. Reduce, minimize. Put them aside if necessary. Keep a few which are very dear to you. But focus, keep the Ishta central. Repeat the Ishta mantra. Worship the Ishta. And if you have other deities in the shrine, put one flower in each of them. That's it. And each religious observance you go to, each temple you go to, each church you go to, you can sit quietly and repeat the Ishta mantra. It is your Ishta only in this form. Why only in all these forms? These are all devotional approaches. Advaita Vedanta. Sri Ramakrishna tells Swami Akhandananda, in Bengali I will tell you and translate, Jejar Ishto Shetar Atma. Whoever is your Ishta, that is the Atma which you speak about in Advaita Vedanta. It's the same one. Try to conceive of the Atma, try to visualize the Atma, you cannot. We discussed in the morning, if you know it, it's not you. It's an object of knowledge. Then how will you worship? How will you concentrate? How will you pray? How will you love? Then you clothe it with a name and form, a divine name and form. That is the Ishta. So your repeating the mantra and focusing on the Ishta is as good as your contemplation of the Atma. Sri Ramakrishna's beautiful formula, bringing these two together. Otherwise you will have we all have a conflict. I am hearing and studying about non-dual Vedanta. And I have been taught to repeat a mantra and visualize a deity. What's the connection? At most, the connection will be what we did today. The classical Advaitins will say, that's good, that's preparatory. You have a scattered mind, this kind of visualization and meditation and repeating the mantra will focus your mind. That's all. Finally, you have to come to Advaita Vedanta and then go through this process to realize you're Brahman. That's classical Advaita Vedanta. But what the Guru has taught you is not an intermediary stage that you have to do this now, next you have to go to YouTube and listen to a Vedanta talk. No. That Ishta mantra repetition and japa and visualization will take you to the highest realization. Because they are the same thing. So when you are doing Advaita Vedanta and contemplating Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana, you need not feel you are doing some other sadhana. And when you are doing japa and Ishta Devata visualization, you are not deviating from your Advaita. If you find the Ishta Devata, you have found the Atman. If you realize the Atman, you have found the Ishta Devata. Same. What will happen? That we don't know. We know very little. I know of people who have been sadhakas. Intensive repetition of the Ishta mantra and meditation. And no Advaitic thinking. No Yoga Vasistha, Upanishad. No. They are repeating the mantra and visualizing the Ishta Devata for hours and hours and hours, days and days and days. Flash of realization. Aham Brahmasmi. Not the vision of the Ishta Devata. This has happened. At least 2-3 cases I know. As far as I am concerned, those are genuine cases. So you are repeating the Ishta mantra and you get Brahma Jnana. Or you may get a vision of the Ishta Devata, who knows. Leave it to God. It's not like a supermarket when you pick up the things and now I'm at the checkout. So I've purchased a little bit of this and that. Not like that. What will happen entirely by the grace of God. Yes. Next. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Namaskar. Anita Mayura.
This kind of maybe piggybacks from her question. So the goal really is for us to realize our true self, and Bhakti Yoga is certainly a way that we can get there. I guess the confusion, and maybe you kind of answered a little bit of my question, but at the point that you are, you have a deity in front of you and you're praying to this deity, you're practicing dualism.
Yes.
Because it's certainly that you are looking at the separate entity and you're seeing it and you're praying to it and thinking that that entity is going to affect your life, right? What does the transition look like? I mean, because I know people that are stuck in there, they
Yes.
never return to really realizing that we are one consciousness.
Yes.
What is the process that which
Right.
you come back?
Okay. Two-part answer. One is transition, how do they come back? Not necessary. What we are doing here is one kind of spirituality. From yesterday, whatever we have been doing, this is called Jnana Yoga, the way of knowledge. It is not essential for everybody. Sri Ramakrishna, therefore, was very interesting. Even Swami Vivekananda would give a hierarchy. He would say, yes, from there, from dualism, one has to go to qualified non-dualism to non-dualism. Dvaita to Vishishtadvaita to Advaita. It's like a ladder, step by step. And finally realize we are all one limitless consciousness, Aham Brahmasmi realization. But Sri Ramakrishna was no hierarchy there, was very flat. You, through your devotion to Krishna or to Kali, what have you got? A vision of Krishna, maybe the enduring presence of the child Krishna. Gopalerma is a very good example. This old, by the time Sri Ramakrishna met her, she was not really all that old, but all her life, she was a widow, in those days a child widow in Bengal, and she spent all her life worshipping the baby Krishna, to the point where she had visions of the baby Krishna, with eyes open also. And she would talk with that child, and it was a remarkable, thrilling story. Now, does she have to go to I am Brahman? Sri Ramakrishna would say no. We would ask, why not? Because Sri Ramakrishna would say, because the reality which you are experiencing as this one divinity in all beings, that reality alone she is experiencing in the form of the baby Krishna. She has touched reality, you have touched reality. In your paradigm, in our paradigm, what we are studying, you have to realize, I am that. That's our way. But that's not her way. Her way is, I am the devotee, I am the mother, God is my child. Now, from our perspective, at best that might seem as a preliminary, it's all right for dummies. We are non-dualists. And finally, that poor woman somehow has to come to my level. Sri Ramakrishna would say, no, not at all. So to do this, he put once Naren, the young Vivekananda, in debate with her, Gopalerma. And he says, Sri Ramakrishna, very funny, wise and mischievous also. He says to Gopalerma, to Naren, who was a skeptic, who didn't believe in these visions and all. He says to this unlettered old woman, again, at that time she wasn't old, you please tell your experiences to this boy, Narendra. And what does he say about it? And then she started in a very guileless way. That Gopala appears to me, I see Gopala, I feed Gopala, I speak to him, I carry him in my lap, and he climbs on my shoulder. And all these so many wonderful stories. And then she says completely guilelessly, Baba, that means my child, to Narendranath, is this all, is it a hallucination? Moner bhul, it's a mistake of my mind, an error in my mind, I'm imagining things? By that time, Narendranath was in tears. He said, no, mother, whatever you are saying is true. Yeah. So I can't account for it in my logic, but what you are seeing is true. And Sri Ramakrishna made that happen. And made sure that M wrote it down in the gospel to answer our doubts today. So, this is one way of reaching the reality. Yes, it's a very rational way, very logical way, very appealing for us. But that's also another way of reaching the reality. Now, is a transition possible? What you are saying, that's also second part of the answer. It is possible. Classical Advaita Vedanta would say you worship God in a particular way, Ishta, have the vision of the Ishta. The Ishta will appear to you in a vision. Then go further and see what is the underlying reality of yourself and the Ishta. It's one pure consciousness. From Saguna Brahman to Nirguna Brahman. In yogic realization also, from Savikalpa Samadhi to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Yeah. So, I remember Swami Bhuteshanandaji. He was asked, so what about this? Shouldn't we go from dualism to non-dualism? Vivekananda often speaks about dualism, qualified non-dualism, and non-dualism as steps of a ladder, 3 steps of a ladder. And Swami Bhuteshanandaji said, a ladder can be reversed. Then non-dualism will become the bottom and dualistic devotion will become the top. Does anybody do that? Yes, they do. If you go to Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the Bengal school of Vaishnavism, they will say, your non-dualism is not wrong, but it's very preliminary. It's for dummies. They say, these non-dualists, these fools, they see the light and they become immersed in that light and they faint. And they say, we have attained samadhi, we have realized we are one with Brahman. But if only they would persist a little, they would go a little further, they would see the light is coming from one little blue boy who has a peacock feather and playing a flute. So it is, they call it Tanubha, the radiance of the body of Krishna. Your so-called limitless consciousness is just the light of the body of Krishna. So you fools, you faint at that sight. Oh, I have realized the highest. Go a little further, you will find a little blue boy playing the flute and with a feathered peacock. Now, that means they have reversed the ladder. Your non-dualism becomes the first and the dualistic devotion to Krishna becomes the highest. Anyway, so all this fun is there.
Hari Om Swami.
Namaste.
My name is Surya Narayana.
Yes.
This is a clarification from one section.
Yes.
I understand intellectually probably when you say Brahman cannot be word painted. You cannot word paint Brahman.
Word paint.
Yes.
You cannot describe in words. Yes.
So in that regard, I was reading on page 4, the book says, without superimposition, nothing can be uttered. And my doubt is, Shruti, Smruti, Puranas, they're all word painting.
Yes.
What it is not. So I'm trying to reconcile.
Yes. Brahman is beyond language. And yet we have only language. This book is language.
Yes.
Upanishads are language. So Brahman is beyond language. You cannot utter it. First we need to understand why you cannot utter it. Why not? Why can't you use language? After all, we are using language. We are using words like Brahman and all. Atman, pure consciousness, being. So we are using so many words. Why Brahman cannot be denoted by language? So for that, a little philosophy of language is necessary. What can language do and what can language not do? Language works with 5 factors. This is straight from Shankara, then Sureshwara. This is philosophy of language. Language works with 5 factors. Any one of these 5, if it is present, language can work. Which are the 5? Jati, Guna, Kriya, Sambandha, Ruri. Jati means class or species, set. Second, Guna, quality, attribute, property. Third, Kriya, action. Sambandha, 4th, relation. 5th, conventional designation. I'll explain each of them. Something belongs to a category of objects, a set of objects, a class of objects, a species. Then you can use the class to designate that entity. The classic example is given, this is a cow. It's a cow. There's a class of animals called cows and they all share certain properties. Here you find an animal with those properties. Then you can use the word cow to designate this animal. Then language will work. You can say cow and it will mean something. But that will not work for Brahman because there is no set of Brahman. There is not a class of Brahmans. And one of them is this Brahman. No. It's not a class. It's not a species. It's not a set. Set in the mathematical sense. SET set. So it will not work. Class name, jati name, class name will not work for Brahman. Characteristic, quality, property. If I say orange cloth, black cloth, grey cloth, what are you doing? How are you distinguishing the cloths? The cloths, the orange, black, grey. Color. Color is an attribute. Tall man, a short person, the dark sky. These are all ways of the red planet. These are all ways of distinguishing objects with properties. Can you use that for Brahman? But Brahman has no property. Nirguna, beyond any attribute. Existence, consciousness, bliss are not properties. They are the very nature that is Brahman. So there is no way of using property to designate Brahman. Another way of using language is action. The car, the one who has parked this car in that place, is about to be towed. Will the driver of this car please come? How did you find out that person? Driver of this car. Will the driver, will the cook? The cook has to be congratulated. We should really congratulate the chefs. They're doing a great job. How will you know whom to congratulate? By their action. They cooked. So any item, person, anything. In science you use it all the time. Function, activity, that denotes, that is used to point out something. So properties or activities are often used in science to point out certain entities. But Brahman, you can't do that. Brahman has no action, nishkriya. Doesn't do anything, most useless, laziest. Brahman doesn't do anything at all. It just is. So no action, you can't point it out by any action. Relation, father and child, guru and disciple, higher and lower. But relations require at least two terms. Any relation requires at least two. Dvinishtha sambandha. Relation exists between two or more entities. But Brahman, there is no two. Advaitam, non-dual. You can't use any relation. What will you use to point out Brahman? What relationship? No relationship. Then the last option is conventional designation, ruri, which means no class or property or no reason is needed. Just give a name and be done with it. Just give a name. This boy is called John, that boy is called Ram, this girl is called Sita. What class, action, relation, nothing. Just give a name. From now on, this baby will be called Ram. So can't you just use a word, Brahman, consciousness, Atman, just give a name? No, that will also not work. That kind of naming is called ostensive definition. That kind of naming requires pointing out. This baby is Ram. If I say, the baby's name is Ram, you'll ask, which baby? I won't tell you. Then the naming has not worked. You won't know anything at all. So this baby, can you point out Brahman? Then only you can name, this thing is called Brahman. Which thing? You can't point out Brahman. So no, the language will not work. Shankaracharya just uses a phrase. Shabda pravritti nimitta rahitatvat. Because the instigators of linguistic usage are absent in Brahman. Therefore, beyond language. All of which I explained has been packed into this. Then what do you do? Then there are different ways of indicating Brahman. Language has to be used. There is no other way. You have to use language. If, for example, strategies to bypass this problem. What are the strategies? If you cannot use language to point out Brahman, can you at least say what Brahman is not? This is called in philosophy via negativa. The negative, or in the technical term, is apophatic approach. Negative approach. You can say what Brahman is not. Neti neti. Whatever you can know, whatever is knowable, anything in this universe, yes, it's not Brahman. Neti. Whatever. Consciousness, existence, yes, all of that. Not Brahman. Because what we mean by consciousness existence is not what Brahman is. Then, Brahman, if it's everything in the universe you're throwing out, then Brahman is nothing. Neti, not even that. It's not nothing either. Basically pointing you back towards your real nature. Using language like, it is other than the known, it is other than the unknown. Anya devatad vidita tatho avidita dadhi. Other than the known, higher than the unknown. That is one strategy. By negation. Another strategy might be by contradictory language. higher than the highest, smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest. It moves and it does not move. Tadejati, tannejati, each Upanishad. What is night to the enlightened one is daytime to the unenlightened. What is the daytime? What is night to the unenlightened is daytime to the enlightened. Contradictory language. Who sees action in inaction and inaction in action, that one truly sees. Gita. Contradictory language. One monk told me, I'll tell you in Hindi and translate, जब दो विपरीत बात एक साथ समझ में आवेगी, पकड़ में आवेगी महात्मा जी, तब अद्वैत पकड़ में आवेगा. When two contradictory terms make perfect sense to you, not just sounding very cool. Smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest. Oh wow. Sees action in action, in action, in action, in action. Wow, that sounds really nice. Not sounds nice, it makes perfect sense. How? Let me give you an example. You're watching a movie, a cop and robbers chase is going on. You know, recently there was an assassination in New York. I was out walking and then suddenly I saw I was surrounded by police and they were searching. I was in Central Park. The assassin had just gone by and they had got information. They had come rushing to search and they saw him exiting the park, entering with the rucksack, with the gun and everything, and exiting the park without the rucksack. So that's what they were searching for. I didn't know that the assassination had taken place. So I thought I was going to step up to the policeman and ask what's going on. Because I'd never seen so many policemen, all armed and everywhere, they're searching. So yesterday they found the rucksack. It was in Central Park. It's exactly the place I walked by, they found it. So it's a very well-known place, the Bethesda Fountain. I just got information just now. So why did I speak about this? The police? Action in action. Suppose you're seeing this in the movie screen. You're seeing this in the movie screen. Cops and robbers going on. Lot of action. But you know there is no action there. It's a movie. There are no cops there. There are no robbers there. There is no cop and robber chase, shootout going on. Nothing. You're seeing action, but you know there is no action there. You're seeing inaction in action. In the midst of action, you're seeing inaction. No activity is going on at all in the midst of so-called action. And the opposite, when people say, I will not do any action, I will sit quietly and meditate, that's also a kind of action. To restrain activity is also a kind of action. What are you doing? I am fasting. Fasting is not eating. But he says, I am fasting, I am doing something. It's a doing, it's a kind of doing. As long as we are identified with body and mind, whether we do something, it's an action. If we don't do anything also, it's an action. You see? It makes perfect sense. Seeing action in action and inaction in action makes perfect sense. If you can understand both together, you will understand Advaita Vedanta. That's another use of language. Contradictory language, paradoxical language. This is all to point out Brahman without directly referring to Brahman. Now when he says without superimposition, you can't use language. Actually, all the references to Brahman is by superimposition. It's only when you have reference to all the existing things in the universe, this universe full of existing beings, and you say existence itself is Brahman. If you did not have an existing universe, you couldn't use the word existence at all. Brahman is pure consciousness. It's only with reference to our conscious experiences that we say the background consciousness is Brahman. But without those underlying experiences, you couldn't talk about consciousness being Brahman also. The word consciousness as Brahman is used to set aside the jadatva, that the Brahman is some kind of inert entity. No, it is pure consciousness. But even pure consciousness relies on the existence and appearance of a world to be able to use that word, pure consciousness. So, superimposition, appearance of Brahman as this world is necessary for using any kind of language to point that out. Sat, Chit, Ananda. I'll quote from, it's there in that book, a subtle point, see if it makes sense. It is from a commentary to one of the toughest books in Advaita Vedanta, Advaita Siddhi, a commentary on that. There it says, I will give the rough English equivalent. the knowledge which cancels the ignorance which presents reality as appearance. That's why Brahman is called Sat, being, existence. Let me rephrase that. We experience this world. Knowledge removes the ignorance which considers this appearance to be real. So that knowledge, that consciousness is called Sat, because it presents the reality, not as real things appearing in the world. That consciousness, the knowledge of which negates the ignorance which presents life as suffering. Therefore, that consciousness is called Ananda. What it means is, if you realize that consciousness, you get an intuition about it, I am this kind of consciousness, then you will realize the whole world is your appearance. It will no longer seem to be a separate entity, real entity outside. If you realize that consciousness, I am this consciousness, then there will be no question of any sorrow. You will be ever fulfilled. It removes the ignorance which presents life as sorrow. That consciousness, if you realize it, parichinnatva, the very idea of limited existences. Here is one person, here is another person, I am separate from them, I am another person. Time, beginning and end. All of these will become appearances in one limitless ground when you realize that consciousness. I am that consciousness. Therefore, that consciousness is called Ananta, infinite. What it is doing is, there is that only one consciousness, you are that. When you realize it, you will realize this world is not a separate existing reality apart from me, this consciousness. Therefore, that consciousness is called Sat, existence. When you realize this consciousness, you will realize that there is no possibility of suffering at all. That's why this consciousness is called Ananda. When you realize that I am this consciousness, you will find so-called limited entities. They are all appearances of one unlimited consciousness. Therefore, this consciousness is called infinite. All of these, you notice, it requires the appearance of a so-called external world, the appearance of the experience of suffering, the experience of limited entities. Then only you can use the words like unlimited, Ananda, pure being. That's what they are saying. It takes a lot of unpacking. Yes.
Hari Om.
Namaste.
Thank you, Swamiji. Sunny here.
Sunny.
I'm almost embarrassed to ask this because you've answered it before, and it has to do with the issue of where did karma begin? And I recall your example of when did you not know German?
Yes, yes.
Beginningless. But when we speak of karma, we say it's because of past actions.
Yes.
That implies time. So is time going in a circle, or are we like evolved from amoebas who like started fighting with each other? Like, where does that start?
Yes. That's why these questions are incorrect. Not that there's anything wrong with the question. It sounds like a perfectly reasonable question to ask. But you notice why they are incorrect. 3 questions. What is there outside space? Well, the question is incorrect because outside and inside are space words. You've already accepted space and then you are asking what's outside space. Similarly, when did time start? What was there before time started? When you say, when did time start? When is a time word? You've already accepted time. Then there cannot be anything outside space, there cannot be anything before time. Because outside already means space. If there is outside and inside, there is space only. Inside there is space, outside there is space. Before and after, if you say before time, before and after means time only. Before and after are time words. Therefore, before time, there is only time. And the third question is causation. Why is all of this happening? The answer in Vedanta is Maya. Because of Maya, Brahman is appearing in these forms. But you can still ask, why Maya? Why Maya? You can still ask. And the answer is, the question is wrong. Why is the question wrong? For the same reason that the time question is wrong and the space question is wrong. When we ask, why is there causation? Why is there Maya? We are asking, why is there causation? cause and effect. But when you ask why, what are you asking? You're asking for a cause. Why is the grass wet? Or here, why is the grass dry? An answer will be because the sprinkler didn't work. You give a because answer. Now if you ask, why causation? What will you say? Because, but you're already using cause. It's like asking why? The answer to why is always a because, but you are not allowed to use because you're asking about cause itself. What was there before causation? Prior to cause, you see, language fails here. So you can't ask a question about causation, you can't ask a question about time, you can't ask a question about space. Only within time, space and causation you can ask these questions.
So is Maya a projection of Brahman?
Yes.
So Brahman.
You can call Maya a power of Brahman, a projection of Brahman, an appearance in Brahman, but not a separate reality apart from Brahman, which requires explanation. I'll put it this way. There is no explanatory link between this world of appearance and the reality Brahman. If there was an explanatory link, then this world would become real. A real Brahman would have caused a real world. Then you can ask for a link. But if it didn't, there is no link between the rope and the snake. Yeah. Error is not causation. Yeah. Thank you. We are really in deep waters now. Ask an easy one.
Namaste, Swamiji. This is a very easy question. Like there is a causal link in the four preliminaries, is there also a causal connection with the three components of enlightenment, in the sense that if you have more clarity, the tattva jnana, then you're more likely to want to be centered in yourself.
Yes, that's a good question.
And you're more likely to be centered in yourself, then you're less likely to have negative tendencies.
Yes, that's a good question. Is there a link? I don't know if there's a causal link, but they're mutually supporting. That's why we are encouraged to do all of them at the same time. And full Jivan Mukti should mean a completion. The word used is Krito Upasti, one who has completed the course of Upasana or practice. So, most perfect example of Krito Upasti is someone like Sri Ramakrishna. Perfect moral life, tremendous sadhana, going up to the vision of his Ishta Devata Ma Kali, then Nirvikalpa Samadhi realization, I am Brahman. Then the Vijnana aspect of seeing divinity in all beings. Perfect completion. Every box has been ticked. And they are mutually supporting. And if one of them is lacking, one should concentrate there. That book, Jivan Mukti Vivek, is a wonderful book. And it actually draws a lot from Yoga Vasistha. Vidyaranya Swami quotes copiously. And he has separate chapters on Manonasha, Vasanakshaya, and Tattva Jnana. Especially those who have studied Vedanta a lot, they don't have to bother too much about Vedantic study. It's more about purification of mind and meditation. They should bother more about that. Yes.
My name is Maureen,
Yes.
and I have a question about the grace of God.
Yes.
Is that the grace of pure consciousness?
Grace generally is a grace of God. What is the relationship between God and pure consciousness? As you are pure consciousness, as I am pure consciousness, God is also pure consciousness. There's only one pure consciousness. However, that pure consciousness limited by this body and mind is Sarvapriyananda. That same pure consciousness limited by that personality is Maureen. That same pure consciousness limited or in association with the entire universe, physical and subtle and causal, is God. It's like water. Water in this wave, water in that wave, and water as the entire ocean. Water as the entire ocean is God. Water as individual waves is us. So when you say grace, grace is something, who can give grace? The one who has power. It is God who has power. You say, is Brahman, the Nirguna Brahman, pure consciousness, the absolute, is it powerless? Yes, it's powerless in a good sense. You see, even power is weakness. The presence of power means something has to be accomplished. When there's nothing to be accomplished and all is perfection, what will power do? So God needs power to create, preserve, and dissolve the universe, to create worlds, to take care of us. God has a huge job description. So God needs lots of power. But the absolute has no job description. It's jobless. It's completely on welfare all the time. So the absolute does not need any power. The grace is not related to the absolute. Grace is always related to God. Even in texts of radical non-dual Vedanta, very interestingly, Avadhuta Gita, like Ashtavakra Samhita, another book is Avadhuta Gita. It's reading these books is like non-dual meditation. Ashtavakra Samhita, if you quietly and slowly read it and dwell on it and read the next verse and dwell on it, it's like non-dual meditation. And another book like that is Avadhuta Gita. The first verse of that non-dual book, which is not about God at all, it's about the absolute reality and that you are pure consciousness. And yet the first verse is Ishvara Anugraha Deva Pumsam Advaita Vasana. By the special grace of God, you have this taste for non-duality. Even the taste for non-duality is seen as the grace of God. Good. Yes.
Can I have one more?
Yep. You've got time. A couple of minutes. Come here. Let her ask and then, please come. Come here.
These are not that significant, but I want to ask one thing.
They are recording, I think. That's why you need the microphone. Tell us your name.
My name is Uma.
The microphone.
And to say that all the tick marks has to be checked.
You have to keep the microphone near your mouth. Yes.
In the case of
Sri Ramakrishna.
yes. In his greatness, I don't have any doubt. I salute from the very bottom of my heart to even know his name and his jivani, etc. But the question is that the most accurate way to in some way indicate the reality, or is Ajatavad of Bhagavad Gaudapad is the best way?
But
Creation. Ajatavad.
yes, you're going to the Everest peak, the top, the final. She is talking about the non-origination Mandukya, the non-origination theory of Gaudapada, the Shankaracharya's guru's guru. All right, please sit. One thing I want to mention, when I said, like Sri Ramakrishna, you have to tick all the boxes, it does not mean that you have to do sadhana like Sri Ramakrishna. That's impossible for us. Then one might as well give up. Sri Ramakrishna himself said, in Bengali he said, I have done all 16 parts. That means, let's put it in more modern terms. I've done 100%. You do 1% also, that's enough. But you have to do something. And the rest will be done for you. But that sadhana is necessary. Now, what she is talking about is the highest non-duality. So Gaudapada's non-origination. The world is an utter figment of our imagination. You are Brahman, you were and you will continue to be so choicelessly. What you see here is a world that has not originated. When I mentioned that phrase, both samsara and nirvana are like magical displays on the primordial ground. That on the ground that you are Brahman, in you, samsara appears and then nirvana appears, moksha appears. Both are appearances. You are always where and will continue to be Brahman. Even this is one step below the non-origination of Gaudapada. This is an appearance theory. Gaudapada's is non-origination theory. First, there is a creation theory. God created this world, and then we have to progress through it seriously until we reach God. There is the appearance theory. No, God did not create this world. Brahman is appearing as this world through Maya. It's a illusory appearance, dream-like appearance, this world. Even further is Gaudapada's non-origination. What appearance? Brahman alone is. There's only Brahman. There's no question of an appearance also. And that might not make much sense to us. I remember, I'll end with this story. So once, this happened about 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. I was not yet an ordained monk. I was a brahmachari, a monastic novice. And I heard that a group of senior monks are going to one of our ashrams outside Calcutta. It's called Borisha. It ties in well with that story of the philosopher. That's where I met that philosopher for the last time, the one who was trying to search whether God exists or not. So we were going there. The group of senior monks were going there to meet another gentleman who was not a monk but a devotee who was in that senior facility in his final years of his life. And they were going to talk about old times. Old times. So I and another monastic novice, we thought it's great. We should go to hear these old timers talk about. We'll get a lot of inspiration, stories, and spiritual advice, insights. So we went, and this philosopher was there. Gentleman, I can tell his name, Devdas Babu. He was there, and one of our very senior Swami Mumukshanandaji, was there in that group. And some other senior monks were there. Mumukshanji has passed away, so I can take his name. And when we sat down for tea, the philosopher was there, and the Swami in charge of the ashram said to the philosopher, "Well, sir, you can ask all your questions. Swami Mumukshanji has come, and he will answer your questions. He will settle your doubts." So the question he asked was this question. The philosopher asked, Devdas Babu, he asked, what is the practice of Gaudapada's non-origination theory? Ajatavader sadhana ki. What is the practice? And the answer I still remember, Swami Mumukshanji gave. He said, imagine that there is a boy in a forest who has never seen, like a house and like a city. And one day his father takes him to a village, in a village headman's house. And there is chairs and tables. And he says to the boy, "Look, boy, this is called a table. Look, boy, this is called a chair. This is a table. This is a chair." And the boy said, "Where is the table, father?" "Here, it's a table." "Where is the chair, father?" "Here, there's a chair." "But I see only wood." "Where is the table?" We think, what a crazy idea. "That's the table." "No, it isn't. If you touch that table, what do you say? Touch wood. You don't say touch table. It's wood on the top. It's wood on the bottom. It's wood on the sides. It's wood inside. It's wood through and through. Which part of that table, which part of that wood is the table? You'll say all of it. But all of it is wood. No, other than the wood. Other than the wood, there's nothing there. That table itself, forget the world and Brahman, just that table. Find out the table. It's right there in front of you. What's there in front of me is the wood. So it's the shape. It's the shape, and it's a name. The shape. Is the shape something apart from the wood? If you probe further, you'll go crazy. The shape also is nothing apart from the wood. Show me the shape apart from the wood. You can't. Show me the table apart from the wood. You can't. The table is a name, a function, a form given or superimposed on the wood. It's not a separate reality. It's not a distinct reality. This is non-origination. The table, while being a table, being called a table, being used as a table, looking like a table, talking and walking like a table, which if Elon Musk has his way will soon happen. All the time is nothing but wood. This is the theory of non-origination of table. Similarly is the non-origination of samsara. Gaudapada says, "Na nirodho na cha utpatti, na baddho na cha sadhaka, na mumukshur na vai muktaha, ittesha paramarthata." What does he say? This universe, yes. There is no end to this universe of samsara. What? That's what we are here for, freedom from samsara. No, there is no end because there is no beginning. It never started. That's very weird. Anyway, I'm not bothered about that. I am in suffering. I am in bondage. I need freedom. He says, na baddha, nobody is in bondage. What do you mean? We are all practicing. We are coming to a retreat and meditating and studying and all and frying our brains with all sorts of theories. We are practitioners. We are doing so much. We have all these churches and meditation centers. Na sadhaka, nobody is a practitioner. What do you mean? All these people who are seeking moksha, mumukshu, mumukshu. There's nobody seeking moksha. Good Lord, it sounds crazy, but at least you must admit, oh Master Gaurapada, like you at least you must admit some enlightened ones are there, some free ones are there. Muktaha. He says, na muktaha. Nobody is free. There's nobody in bondage, nobody is free, nobody is practicing anything, nobody is seeking liberation. There is no end to samsara because there is no beginning to samsara. What nonsense is this? What craziness? He says, ityesha paramarthata. This is the final truth. But always you must remember from the perspective of Brahman, not from... Yes, this is the non-origination theory. May sound crazy, but this is the most radical kind of non-dualism. And there are actually people who hold on to that. When you hear these things, people get enthused. That's the one for me. No. It's not by that non-origination theory you will get Brahman plus, upgraded version of Brahman. And by the origination theory you will get a lower grade of Brahman. Not at all. You will reach the same reality. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna goes so far as to say, the one who is worshipping Krishna as the baby Krishna, and the one who is worshipping one who is trying to realize the non-originated nature of the universe as non-dual Brahman, both will reach the same reality. May not be the same experience, however. Both are touching, or let us say attaining the same reality, which is the only reality that there is. Yes.
So the sadhana that you mentioned, is it for an advanced stage? Because it's the exact opposite of neti, right?
Yes. In advanced means if the person sees reality. We often, when we talk like this, it's like understanding something. But the Upanishads, Gita always use the word see. Yo pashyati sapashyati. The one who sees, that one sees. Sees. Not with these eyes. It's much more vivid than understanding. Neti takes you there. Where the reality is so blazingly obvious, there's no need to do any neti. One step below that child, we have to, like, how did I explain it? It's not a table, it's wood. The child was saying, what table? Can't even see, because the wood is so obvious to the child. The concept of the table at all is not there in the mind. It's an abstraction, it's a construct. Samsara is like that. So frail, wisps of imagination. For us, it's so real, solid. Wait. Otherwise, people will lose sleep tonight. Ask an easy one.
This should be an easy one.
Okay, and we'll end there. We have run out of time.
This is about nature of God.
Yes.
So in Vedanta texts, God, Ishvara, is a passive dispenser of the fruits of karma.
I'll stop you there. Okay, finish the question.
All right. Once we go outside Advaita, God actually takes an active interest in the devotees and people that supplicate to Him, her, however the case may be, to change the course of their lives, twiddle their karmic account, so to speak. Is there any answer to the question of which one to go, or are we imbuing God with the qualities that we see in them?
No, the second one is right. Advaita also does not say Ishvara is a passive dispenser of the fruits of karma. Usually Ishvara gives us the fruits of our karma. But if you pray to God, if you supplicate God, if you worship God and ask for intercession, God can change. Even in Advaita Vedanta, the term used is Karmadhyaksha, the Lord of Karma. Whether it is Shiva, the Divine Mother, or Narayana, whatever form you worship, Saguna Brahman has power over karma. This is a good thing to understand. How do we explain our lives? Forget non-duality. First of all, how do we explain our lives? The first pass answer, first attempt at an answer in Vedanta is karma. It's because of our karma this is happening. No matter how hard, how nasty it may seem, how heartless it may seem, it is cause and effect. There's nobody to blame. Am I being punished? Then many people feel. No, you're not being punished. It's cause and effect. Causality is not punishment, nor is it reward. It's cause and effect. That's one answer. But a higher, deeper, greater answer is it is the will of God. Because even if it is causality, that the results of that causes, results of our karma are coming to us with the approval and the stamp of God. It is the will of God. Being the will of God, what difference does it make? God is not helpless there. God can choose to give us the results of our karma, choose to change it or not give it. Kartum akartum anyatha va kartum shakyate. Can do, cannot do, can do differently. Holy Mother was asked, does spiritual practice change our karma? She says, yes, it does. Notice, spiritual practice is also karma. And it is the most powerful kind of karma because you are connecting directly with Ishvara. And what Holy Mother said, where a leg would have been lost, you will get a pinprick. Provided that Ishvara is on your side. You're doing japa.
But Swamiji, in that case, we are coming close to not protecting God from partiality, aren't we?
No, it's not partiality. It is Ishvara Ichcha is not partiality. Remember then, you have to ask the question then, what is this whole play for? Whole play is for God realization. So if somebody holds on to God and for the sake of God realization is doing sadhana and asks or has his or her karmas reduced, removed, changed, which will help this person further along in the course towards God, it's all part of God's plan then. It's well in within God's parameters. God will not do it for when it will harm our spiritual development.
In other words, connected with spiritual evolution of a person versus, okay, I want my favorite team to win. Is that?
Yes, that is true. Spiritual evolution, generally God is on your side. Even favorite team to win, where, or I want to win the lottery, or I want a deadly illness to be cured, in many cases very seriously so. Does prayer work there? Yes, it does. It may not always go the way we want it to, but it does. Why? Again, that is helping us towards God realization. Sri Krishna says, 4 kinds of devotees I have. Those who are in distress, those who want more things, worldly things, those who are spiritual seekers, and the enlightened. All 4 are my devotees. Now I understand the enlightened one, I understand the spiritual seeker. But those who are in trouble in this world, they are also my devotees. And those who are not in trouble, but they want more things in this world, they are also my devotees. They are the worldly ones who go to temple, church, mosque, to the Yagyashala and perform rituals and all for getting stuff by the grace of God, helping. God helps them also. Why? Because inevitably, invariably, after a long, maybe this lifetime or next lifetime, as the faith in God grows stronger, yes, such a thing is there, which helps me. Many people say that. Their faith in God grows stronger. Then their liking, these worldly things will become smaller and smaller. They're asking, using God to ask for this and that will slowly disappear. Worldliness will go away. They will become spiritual seekers. So God is very accommodating. God will not say that, you fellows just want worldly stuff. You go by the way of karma. I will not help you. I am not there for you. No, God is there for you. Even karma is supported by God. But remember, these two are still dualistic, karma and God. Advaita Vedanta, if you come to Brahman, if you rise to that level, even karma becomes an appearance. Even karma is not ultimately real. It's part of causality. Brahman is not affected by karma. Vivekananda, good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. Whosoever wears a form will wear the chain too. There God will come in and make a little footnote. If you ask me, I will replace the iron chain with a golden chain or loosen the chain a little bit so that it doesn't hurt so much. But then what is Advaita? Far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Say, thou art that, sannyasi bold. Say, Om Tat Sat. Thou art that, sannyasi bold. Say, Om Tat Sat Om. On that very nice note, very good.